Hey, everybody. Going to make sure that I'm good on Facebook and Instagram. And we're going to hop right in. Okay, so welcome. Tonight we're going to be talking about how to. Hold on, let me adjust a little bit. Hey, Lady Tanisha over on Instagram. Thanks for tuning in. Tonight we're going to be talking about. Let me scoot over a little bit. How to make sure that your kids are not eating up all your food over spring break. Let me know if your kids are on spring break. I'm in the Atlanta area, so most of the counties that are here, kids are on spring break, and if they're not yet, then it's coming up in the next week. And I actually saw this meme that was hilarious, and it was talking about to tell your kids so they can know to not think that they are eating 4 or 5 meals a day. Because I know that when your kids are in the house, they think, oh, I'm home and I'm going to just eat all the stuff in the pantry because they have no sense of time or things like that. And so we'll be talking about how to kind of manage your kids so they're not eating up all your food while they're in the house. So let me know if your kids are on spring break or if spring break is coming up. Over on Instagram, Tanisha said that it's over now and they'll go back tomorrow. Okay, so you are free and clear. But she said they did eat all day all her food. So hopefully these tips can help you for summer break, or I know some counties have like a fall break or like not spring break. It's like a weird thing in between spring break and the end of the year. So hopefully these tips can help you with that. And I haven't introduced myself yet. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Chef Ashley Shep. I am a mealtime strategist and a personal chef in the Atlanta area, and I help busy moms get dinner done faster without having to order takeout. And so if you are just tuning in, tonight we're going to be talking about how to have some healthy snack ideas for your kids and also how to make sure they're not eating all of your food all day while they're in the house on break. If your kids are not currently on a break, this could also work for the weekends. Like if you're at home a lot on Saturdays, then that's another time where for kids time just seems like it just does not really have any boundaries or things like that. And so that's another time where they like to eat all the food in your house. So my first tip for you is one that some of you might already do, but it's worth repeating, is to make sure you set boundaries. And what I mean by that is just like you would with anything else for your kids. So let's say you are having them with their room. Like maybe their room needs to be clean a certain way. Like I know growing up, if I wanted to go anywhere to go over to somebody's house or just certain times in the week, I had to make sure that my room was clean or I wasn't going to be allowed to go. And so with that, same thing with food. You want to set boundaries for your kids. So maybe that looks like having a timer. So that, okay, they can have their snack at like 11 o'clock for the morning snack, and then maybe they can have their snack at like 3 o'clock. And that's going to be helpful to actually use a timer because for kids, if you think about it, during the school day, all of those things are kind of set up for them. They don't really have to think about when are we doing this, or this. It's just, okay, so I come in, I unpack my book bag, there's structure and there's boundaries that are already in place. So it's not something that kids are really having to think about. It's just something that kind of moves them through the day. And for those of you that don't know, I'm actually a teacher by trade, and so I'm speaking from that area of expertise. But one of the things that was in the GIF the meme that I saw was to remind your kids that they only eat at school once or twice. Your kids, if they have breakfast at school, they're eating twice a day. If they only have lunch at school, they're usually only eating just that one meal a day in the time that they're not at home with you. Some schools do allow snack time, depending upon when your lunchtime is. So max, your kids are probably eating 3 times a day at school, and it's not going to be a full meal. And so a lot of times if they're saying, oh, I'm hungry, or when are we going to eat, whatever, a lot of times it's not because they're not actually hungry. It's because they are bored or because they're close to the food. It could be because they see you eating. I know for a lot of parents, they have to hide the food they're eating so they don't have to share it with their kids. And so those are things you just want to kind of keep in mind. So when you set up those boundaries and that structure, think about your kid. Is your kid one that is easily wanting to have a snack when they're like playing video games or watching a movie? And not saying you can't do those things, but we kind of want to help our kids to be able to self-regulate. So they're not having to just think, oh, I'm bored, let me go get a snack. Or, oh, I'm sitting in front of the TV, let me just go get a snack, because that's a natural reflex that they maybe have been doing. So if this is making sense to you, let me know in the comments. Okay, so Tanisha said, great topic. She needs this. Well, hopefully this has been helpful. And then on Facebook. All right, so we're good there. Okay, so setting those boundaries. So like I said, you could use a timer. This could also include picking the snacks for them. So if you have a kid that they don't always make the best decisions when it comes to snack time, when they're given that option, what you can do is kind of limit their options for them. And that could start from not buying things that are things you don't want your kid to eat. Like I know growing up, and even now, we didn't really have potato chips in the house. And if we had them, it was like for a party, or we went to someone else's house and got them. So it wasn't that we weren't allowed to have them. My mom just didn't keep them in the house. So if they're not in the house, then it's just not an option for, it wasn't an option for us, and it's not really an option here in my house. And so with that, it's going to make it so obviously your kids don't have that as a choice. And then you're getting to choose the things that you want them to have. So maybe you're picking options that they like, but then also kind of eliminating some of that for them. So this is a little easier if your kids don't go with you to the grocery store to pick out these options. But if they do, just like any other boundary you set as a parent, any other thing, like when you give them a bedtime, when you tell them like it's time for bath, like any other thing like that, food is the same way. And it could be something where you explain to them that I'm doing this because I care about your health. I'm doing this because I want to make sure that you're able to get your thoughts together and make sure your head's not filled with junk. And not saying you have to completely eliminate those things. And we'll talk about what types of snack options are good later. But you do want to kind of narrow those options for kids. So another thing you can do is to color code your options. So for example, if you are making snacks for them, you can use like little decorative tape, like washi tape. It sticks to things, but it comes off smoothly. It doesn't leave a mark. And I was telling one mom the other day that she could put like bins inside of her fridge or inside of the pantry. So maybe you have like your sweet snacks, or maybe you have your salty snacks, and maybe the salty are like green and then the sweet ones are like yellow or something. And so if you're allowing them to have like a morning and an afternoon snack, then you would tell them, okay, so you can get the green snack in the morning, or you can pick which one you have when, but you can only have one from this container and one from that container. And so that way they get to decide, do I want to have my sweet snack in the morning, or do I want to wait until later? So they're getting some type of choice. It's not completely restricting them, but you have already made the choice of what those snacks are for them. So hopefully this is making sense to you all, and that it's helpful. If you have not already, please share this out to parents who are going to be on the struggle bus for spring break, or who are who just need a little bit of help. And it doesn't necessarily have to be for spring break. It could be after school, because that's another time. That window between getting off the bus to dinner time is another time where snacking happens, and that's fine, but we want to make sure we have some structure around that. So, all right. My next tip is to help them to be able to pick smart snacks. And so once again, we talked about this a little bit, but picking snacks that are going to keep them fuller longer, and picking ones that are, of course, going to be things they like. So if you have a bit of a picky eater, this will be a little bit harder, but you can actually let them have some say in it. I know, like with my mom, same thing we talked about a little earlier. With us, she would give us options. And so like if you know your kid likes fruit and they like crackers and they like granola or something, let them kind of put their snacks together, or let them decide, okay, I want to have this one on Monday, I want to have this one on Tuesday, and this one on Wednesday. So once again, you're limiting it, but you're giving them the option to pick when they're going to have each of them. Things like nut and fruits together are going to be a good combination, because the fruit will give you a little bit of that sweetness, but then the nuts will give you the protein that you need to make sure they're not coming back in the kitchen for a snack again in 20 minutes. Or if your kid's allergic to nuts, then you could use chickpeas are another good option. They're very versatile. They are going to be something you could bake them. You can eat them raw. They're really easy to kind of just throw together. Popcorn's another good option. But with the popcorn, it's not going to fill you up as much as something that has a little bit of protein in it. But it is a whole grain, so it can be a healthy option. And when I say that, I don't mean like the popcorn doused in butter and sugar and sugar if it's like a cinnamon sugar popcorn. If you're doing like Smart Pop or Skinny Pop, those are good options, and they have some good flavors as well that are not going to weigh your kids down. Another option is smoothies or fruit. So you could get the little prepackaged fruit cups, and that's one thing that I think is also important to bring up, because a lot of times with parents, they feel like they have to, or not that they have to, but they feel like they're being judged if they don't do everything from scratch. And so that's not why I'm here, and that's not something I want to help perpetuate. But even if you get those little fruit cups, like that's better than your kid eating something that's loaded with a bunch of fat. And if you're worried about their sugar intake, then you can get the ones that are lower sugar or lower, like like they're in water instead of like fruit juice. You could have them do whole fruit, like the Halos or the Cuties. Those are made so that they can easily peel them. You don't have to peel or start it for them. Granola is another good option. You do want to kind of be careful about the amounts that they have of that, just because it could be, depending upon what kind of granola it is, it could be high in sugar. And it is high in healthy fat, depending upon the nuts that are in there. But with all of these, you can use those little snack size Ziploc bags. And if your kid's old enough, you can put them in charge of filling those with their snacks. Or you can do it for them, so that way they're just easy to grab if you're going to make them for them. If you're not, there's definitely options that are already in like single size servings. So for example, like Ritz crackers, I got the whole wheat ones, and they have like a little mini sleeve. So instead, because normally they come in like the longer sleeve, but they have ones that are like a half or like a quarter of that. And so that's easy just to put in like a bag or something, or just to put it in the same way that it is, and they can take that. So those are some options. All right, so my last one is to keep them busy when they're on break. And so, like we talked about earlier, for a lot of kids and a lot of adults, actually, the reason why we end up snacking mindlessly is because we're bored, or it could be because we're stressed, or it's just a habit. Like I've shared before that I used to have a habit of going to get ice cream on Fridays after work. And at some point, I'm sure that habit was because I really wanted it, but I realized that it was just because it was just my brain was programmed to do that. And so our kids are the same way. So if your kid is programmed to get a snack as soon as they get off the bus, they're going to expect that snack. When they're on spring break, they don't kind of have that pattern anymore, so it becomes a new opportunity for a pattern. So you want to have your kids be on somewhat of a schedule, not to where it's like down to the minute, but maybe they have blocks of time, like, okay, once you wake up, you get your breakfast, things like that, and then you're not allowed to have a snack until like 11, or you're not allowed to have a snack until whatever time you decide. And that's where that timer will come in and be helpful. If you don't have a timer, if your kid's smaller than that, you could or younger, to where they can't really understand the whole timer thing, you could do like a TV show amount. So you might want to say, okay, so after you watch 2 episodes of this, then maybe you can have a snack. And so it's kind of creating a time structure for them without telling them like an actual time, if that helps a little bit. And when you create the schedule for them, stick to it. Like if your kid asks you before that time is up, if you don't think that they're hungry, there's really no reason why they need to have another snack. And I know for some parents are like, oh, but I think my kid might be starving. And you know your kid, like you're going to know whether or not they're really hungry, if they're just bored and they want something to eat. And I'm not saying starve your kid at all, obviously. But if you think about the time that they're not eating in a school day, for example, they get to school, if you're in elementary school, about 7:30, 8 o'clock. And then you're probably not eating lunch until 12-ish, 11 or 12, depending upon what lunch you have during the day. And they're not getting off the bus until like 3. So there's a good amount of time in between when they're eating. So it doesn't have to be any different when they're at home with you. So some ways to keep them busy during that time are also things like free activities. So going to the library or to the park. that probably going to the park will probably work up an appetite for them, so they probably will want to snack after that. But it's something that can help them get some fresh air and not always just rely on electronics or a snack to kind of keep them busy and keep them occupied. So those are my quick tips to help make sure your kid is not eating you out of house and home while they're on spring break or summer break. And if you are looking for more tips like this when it comes to dinner time, snack time, things of that sort, then definitely sign up at my link that I'm going to put in here. Facebook is there, and then on Instagram, I'm going to see if I can pop it into the comments for you. And this basically will give you insider access to my email list. And what I do there is I send out tips, strategies. If you ever were not able to catch the replay of some, or if you were ever not able to catch a live version of something that I do send out the replay, so that way you're not searching through social media to try to find it. And I also give my email list advance notice for different things and different tips that I don't share with everybody else. So let me see. Okay, I posted on Instagram. We're good there, and posted on Facebook. So thank you all for tuning in, and hope you have a good night and a spring break that does not include you being foodless. So have a good one.